I still don't fully have my arms wrapped around it because it would stay within the population of the unvaccinated. Like COVID and all these, like, if you're vaccinated, then somebody who has it is not a threat to you, right? Isn't that the whole point of the vaccination? But the question is, what happens if you see these outbreaks in the state of Florida?
Yeah. So it's a good question. And, a couple things, right? So, it's important to remember, first of all, that there are other countries that don't have vaccine mandates for schools. Sweden's one of them. I think Denmark's another one. I believe the United Kingdom's another one. Sky isn't falling out there, right? So it's important to remember, like, this is something that can happen and does happen in other states. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pardon me, in other countries. It's also important to remember that parents are, they know their children best. So, is it a just position? Is it appropriate to take away the ability of a parent to make a decision that they think is best for their child? I think that's inappropriate in terms of medications that they give their children. So, if there are outbreaks, and and there have been outbreaks. We've had some. Other states have had some. And frankly, this year, other states so far have had more than we have. But it fluctuates. There's a lot of randomness to it. We'll manage them. And communities, right? Like, say a family decides, I don't want to give Junior this particular vaccine. Oftentimes, for those vaccines, if there's an outbreak. Sometimes, for example, for things that are more contagious, like measles, if the family feels that way still, then that's how they feel. We saw that in Texas with those communities that they didn't run and go get vaccines during the measles outbreak. At least many of them didn't. They chose not to. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there were families that actually changed their mind and decided to do that. So those are people can continue to make decisions, but it's important that they have that option. And taking away from them is not, in my opinion, the best path. So people can still receive them if they want them, if they're concerned about outbreaks. But these are things that are I am fully confident are manageable.
Okay. I think this is a question I want to ask. We're headed towards the end, but over the course of our conversation and over the course of understanding your argument having been made, seeing you in various places, I hear two justifications for the policy that you're adopting in Florida. One justification is the primary, okay? It sounds to me, if I were putting a percentage basis on it, it's 80% of your rationale. But you did, even in the course of our conversation, hint at another one as well. And the primary motivation I hear is individual choice. We want parents to make decisions for their children. We want you to have that freedom of choice. We don't want to mandate a whole host of things, medicines that you got to put into your child. That is the one you made to Jake Tapper. That is the primary one you've made here with me today as well. And I think everybody appreciates and understands that.
Yeah, let me interrupt you. I'm so sorry, because there's just a piece that when you expressed it that I would say doesn't quite vibe well, isn't quite carrying the energy of it. It's not so much that, when I hear how I'm hearing what you're saying, it's almost like it's an option. But it's not like an option. It's how things should be. So that's different. It's not like, oh, well, we could let parents or we could not let parents. No, we should let parents. The children are the primary responsibility of the parents. It's not like some wishy-washy option. Just the vibe is different, and I want to, because it's like, it's not A, B, or C.
Okay, you're hardcore. You're hardcore on that. Absolutely. And that's a moral position, which I get. Which I get. Yeah. What you're emphasizing to me is this is a moral argument for you. The morality is that parents should be in charge of their children and deciding what goes into their body. Am I saying it? Am I vibing more now? And the state shouldn't be dictating.
Okay, that's good. We're there now.
And I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Meaning I share your passion for that morality. I did say that I thought I heard a little bit in your conversation with me today that there might be another justification as well. And I'm curious, and I have to explore it, because it is the justification that the other side, the left, is fearful of you or RFK or me or anyone else that brings up these issues on. And that is, are you rejecting the efficacy and the safety of vaccines? Which, by the way, you could. There's nothing wrong with that. Every medicine should be analyzed on its risk-reward basis. But that's what they're afraid of, I think, in the end. That this entire conversation about whether or not we should accept the safety and efficacy of vaccines, whole cloth, like eating out of a Cracker Jack box. And when you brought up chicken pox, you said to me, you wonder if we should even be doing that or if it should just be a childhood disease that people, is disease the right word? A childhood sickness that we all go through like we did when we were younger, right? And so what I'm curious about is that sounded like you not just saying, oh, I want to give everybody the choice, but you yourself suggesting there's a moral equation here of like risk, maybe not moral, there's a risk-reward equation here, and you think chickenpox lends itself more towards the risk than the reward of getting the vaccine. And I'm curious how much of that is impacting your decision on all of them, not just chickenpox.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's easy answer to that, 0%. So if we had now vaccines for, every illness, every major illness that were 100% effective and 100% safe, my position would move this much. It's not changing because it's the correct position. It just turns out, and I don't go too much into the science because people like to go into the science about this, but it's really not a scientific conversation. That part, though, does have to do with informed consent, right? So, all this, I prescribe statins to patients. I don't say I believe in statins. I prescribe blood pressure medication to patients. I don't say I believe in blood pressure medication, but you hear all of these MDs and PhDs walking around saying that they believe in vaccines. Interesting. You know what I mean? Like, tell me about that, where's the Bible on that? I want to read about that, So, the scientific discussion is frankly, it's corrupted. It's corrupted by the fact that people have so much belief in vaccines that they can't even evaluate data very evenly. And I'll just to bear with me here. One of the things, and I'm new to this, by the way, frankly, I didn't believe any of this before the COVID-19 pandemic. But look at the fact that pretty much virtually all of the diseases on the childhood immunization schedule, when you look at the studies that were used for FDA approval, you'd think that they would be, it's varicella zoster versus a saline placebo, but it's not. It's always a vaccine versus another vaccine, which is incredibly corrupt. There are multiple layers of scientific corruption in this area, unfortunately.
And I hear you, by the way. This isn't a debate. This isn't a cross-examination. This is a conversation, and it's one that I agree with. Like, I think that every individual should be going through the risk-reward analysis of the data for every single medication and every single treatment that they and their children go through. That's a conversation between them and their doctor. What you are suggesting to us, and I really like the line about if I knew they were all 100% safe and all 100% effective, it would change my moral position on the role of the state in this entire enterprise, 0%. That clarifies exactly you as the Surgeon General and the public health official of the state of Florida. What you as a doctor might tell your patient, well, I'm sure that's individualized on every single one of these medications and every single one of those individuals.